I don't want to sound any alarms. I don't want to sound any panic buttons, no ringing bells, flashing lights, sirens, none of it. But we should probably keep our eye on the Panthers getting back up to the Panthers' old tricks.
Oh, okay.
Adrian Wilson out as the Panthers' VP of player personnel. That was VP of player personnel is what I tried to say the first time. A lot of P's in that tongue twister. VP of player personnel is no longer Adrian Wilson. He's quietly left the team after a year and a half.
Was hired February of 2023.
For those of you that don't remember Adrian Wilson, he was a really good safety for the Arizona Cardinals for basically a decade in the early 2000s. Started his front office career with the Cardinals. He's in their Ring of Honor. He's worked his way up and was obviously brought over to the Panthers, as Dennis said, February 2023. Now, being a great player doesn't necessarily make you a great front office executive. Sometimes I actually think it hurts you because you tend to just go, well, yeah, do what I would do there and run your 4-4 to get in recovery position and intercept the ball while diving backwards and making a one-handed catch. And then, your second-string safety is like, yeah, what if you can't do that? How do we avoid needing to do that? So I'm not here to say losing Adrian Wilson is some kind of major loss for the team because we don't know how much impact front office executives have, right? We don't know how much Brant Tillis and Dan Morgan at the top of that food chain in the Panthers player development and player evaluation, we don't know how much they listen to Adrian Wilson. It might be like, yeah, turn in a packet on the players you like. We'll get to it when we can. It could also be, hey, we're not taking anyone on the defensive side of the ball unless you sign off on them. You're, number 3 in command. We don't know. It could be anywhere on that scale. So I can't with any kind of full throat or any kind of full voice say, this is terrible. They're going to miss Adrian Wilson so badly, right? Only time will tell. But what I can say is the Panthers do have a history of being pretty quick with that move-on trigger. And they did put out a statement saying they wouldn't make a statement, right? Their response was, and let me just bring it up because I want to make sure I don't misquote it. They did put out a statement here, or I should say their response to an inquiry was Adrian Wilson will not continue in his position as Vice President of Player Personnel for the Carolina Panthers. This is from a team spokesperson to PFT. Consistent with our organizational policy on employee matters, we will have no further comment. At some point, you want to see organizational stability and consistency from the Panthers. This might be a one-off, and it might be nothing, because every team has a little bit of turnover every now and then in your front office.
Everyone does.
But the Panthers have had a lot of it.
Mm-hmm. By the way, Wilson, former NC State guy.
NC State guy from High Point.
From High Point. So he's North Carolina through and through.
And so I'm sure it's a bummer that it didn't work. I'm sure he had dreams and aspirations of the Panthers being a really cool situation for him with nearby family and nearby college friends. The Panthers will have to do this, what I'm about to say. And it might not have come into play with Adrian Wilson, but at some point, you have to let people make mistakes and play through it. At some point, you have to acknowledge that a front office might have a bad draft, but you, David Tepper, as an owner, believe in the people making the picks and give them another shot. I understand you got to move on from Matt Rule for whatever reason. You got to move on from Fitterer for whatever reason. You got to move on from Reich for whatever reason. At some point, you got to say, no, I believe in these people, and even if they make a decision that makes me look bad publicly for a season or two, I trust them to get out of it. I was telling this story to Dennis, but I read a great article on The Ringer over the weekend, right? A little travel read. I was on the plane, and it was about the Raptors drafting Bruno Caboclo. I don't know how to pronounce it. I had never really heard of the guy, but they drafted him 20th overall the season after Giannis, and the season after Giannis got drafted by the Bucks. And he was a mystery man, and the whole article was about how you don't really have these mystery prospects in sports anymore, right? If you are a third-tier player in Brazil, somebody online has a YouTube video of your pros and cons and your strengths and weaknesses. Like, there's really no completely hidden players anymore. But this guy, Bruno, was completely hidden. And the Raptors kept a tight lid, didn't tell anyone they were interested. Nobody knew. And then they drafted him in the first round. It was a shock. Fran Fraschilla on the draft coverage said, I don't know about this one. He's 2 years away from being 2 years away. He said that in the actual draft. Like, that was his first reaction, which is a brutal thing to say about a draft pick who's being picked in the first round. Which, by the way, he didn't even make it 4 years with the Raptors. So if he was, if you're 2 years away from being 2 years away and you get moved on from after 3 years, that's a brutal spot to be. The reason why I bring this up is because that Raptors front office, Masai Ujiri, their GM, that got all excited about this mystery pick they were going to make and did all of the hidden things and the right clandestine maneuvers and spy thought processes. He's one of the best front office executives in the NBA. Right? He orchestrated the Kawhi trade. He orchestrated the Fred VanVleet development, the Pascal Siakam development from background picks to all-stars. And he's now widely seen as one of the best front office executives in the entire NBA. That's a big miss to do a big, dramatic, theatric move to draft somebody that nobody's ever heard of and have it blow up in your face. Which, by the way, they had DeMar DeRozan, they had Kyle Lowry at that time. Like, they were trying to win, and they drafted the wild prospect that did not help them at all. But patience, right? The Raptors believed in him. They said, that's one mistake. Maybe that's your third mistake, but it's not going to be the end of you. And now they're benefiting from it, and they benefited from it to the tune of an NBA championship. Who knows why Adrian Wilson is not on the Panthers anymore, right? The only statement we have is that they're not making a statement. We don't know why. This news was originally found because someone noticed that he wasn't on the team webpage anymore, team website anymore.
Yeah. It's like, wait, where's Adrian? Why is he not listed here?
So probably a State fan just checking up on him, right?
I don't know. Or just another Panthers fan. Like, wait a second. Why is this don't know. Why is this guy not here anymore?
We don't know why he left, but I know this. I know the best teams in professional sports feel like the same people are coming back year in and year out. They're the same people they trust. They're the same people. Like, drafts are not alone. Right? Free agents are not alone. It's not like making one pick is it good or bad. It's like you make one pick and then you have to pick the right player the next year to complement that player and the right player the next year to complement those players. And it all comes together like a puzzle. If you're throwing out the person with the blueprint every other year, you never get to see the finished product. I don't like to see the Panthers with too much turnover in important positions. And the VP of player personnel, it's not the GM. It's not the second in command. We know that's Dan Morgan. We know that's Brant Tillis. Mm-hmm. It might be number 3. It might be top 5, right? We're unaware. I get nervous when a team with an impatient owner, with an owner that likes to meddle, starts to have the turnover. I'm hoping it's new. I'm hoping this regime is different. I'm hoping, as we call it, the 4 horsemen of the franchise, the owner, the GM, the head coach, the quarterback, have a stable environment, not just within that 4, but around that 4 for them to continue to grow.
Do you think, this is what my gut tells me, the fact that it wasn't announced that he was let go, no, like, hey, best of luck in your future endeavors, none of those kinds of things. Do you think just something happened behind the scenes that we just don't know about? And then it's like, hey, you know what? Maybe you broke like a basically company policy. Yep. We need to let you go.
Could be. I mean, it definitely could be.
I hope that's not the case.
It could also be, post-draft, he looked around and said, I don't think anyone was listening to me, and he wanted to bounce, and they didn't want, a statement saying,
just saying, hey, dude, I quit.
Yeah, there's that.
There's possibility of that, too.
There's maybe he didn't vibe with somebody. He was a fitter or higher, if we did the math correctly on the calendar.
Oh, he was brought in right after Frank Reich was brought in.
Could have just been, hey, we love you, Adrian, but you got too much fitter all over you, so we're gonna have to send you out. Like, there's a lot of that in sports. You're not my guy, right? You're the previous guy's guy. I'm just a fan of stability. When you think of the best teams in the NFL, right? When you think of the best teams in the NFL, they're the ones that are seen as loyal, stable, right? And I want that to be thought of with the Panthers.
Which is confusing because Scott Fitterer came from probably the most stable franchise in sports in the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yep.
As a part owner over there.
Well, I mean, even like if you look
Did
at
not learn anything?
Oh, you mean Tepper?
I'm sorry, Tepper,
yes.
not Fitterer. My apologies on that. David Tepper.
And like the Morgan and Canales being with Seattle, they know what it looks like to have a very stable, same regime for a long time franchise.
Where Fitterer was.
Exactly. Well, I mean, at a certain point, you do have to run out of patience. You can't just let them keep making mistakes. But you're going to have to trust someone at some point in time. I know that much.